Victoria Ashford's phone vibrates during the most important pitch of her quarter. She glances down at the screen. St. Catherine's Preparatory Academy. Her jaw tightens. She already knows this isn't good. The investor across the table is mid-sentence, talking about market projections and growth trajectories. But Victoria's mind has already left the room. She excuses herself with the kind of polished apology that comes from years of practice, her heels clicking against marble as she walks toward the glass elevator. By the time she reaches her car, the details are waiting in her voicemail. Maya has been suspended. A fight. Physical violence. The words feel like they belong to someone else's daughter, not hers. The drive from downtown San Francisco to Pacific Heights takes 23 minutes, but today it feels like hours. Victoria's hands grip the leather steering wheel, so tightly her knuckles go white. She can feel the weight of the gold band on her right hand, the one she moved from her left 3 years ago, but still can't bring herself to take off. Her late husband would have known what to do. He always knew what to do with Maya. But he's gone, and Victoria has been trying to fill a space she was never meant to occupy alone. The fog rolls in from the bay, thick and relentless, swallowing the Golden Gate Bridge behind her. She used to find it beautiful. Now it just feels suffocating. St. Catherine smells like old money and fresh flowers. The principal's office is all dark wood and leather chairs, the kind of place designed to make you feel both privileged and small. Maya sits in the corner, arms crossed, her vintage camera resting against her chest like armor. She doesn't look at Victoria when she walks in. She hasn't really looked at her mother in months. The principal explains the situation with practiced sympathy. Maya shoved another student. There were words exchanged. Something about Maya's father. Victoria feels her stomach drop, but her face remains perfectly still. She spent years learning how to hide what she feels. Maya, on the other hand, has spent the same years learning how to weaponize every emotion. The principal talks about consequences, about second chances, about the school's zero-tolerance policy. Victoria nods in all the right places, asks all the right questions, but inside she's screaming. When they finally leave, Maya doesn't wait. She storms through the hallways, her boots echoing against the polished floors, and plants herself beside Victoria's white Tesla in the parking lot. Victoria takes her time. She thanks the principal. She smooths her cream blazer. She walks with the same controlled grace she's perfected over decades. But when she reaches the car and sees Maya standing there, staring at her phone, shutting her out completely, something inside her chest cracks just a little bit more. They don't speak on the drive home. The silence is heavier than any argument. Victoria wants to ask what happened. She wants to ask if Maya is okay. She wants to reach across the center console and touch her daughter's hand. But she doesn't. Because she doesn't know how anymore. And maybe she never did. Later, after Maya has disappeared into her room and slammed the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames in the hallway, Victoria sits alone in her car in the garage. The engine is off. The house is quiet. She stares down at the gold band on her right hand, the one that used to mean forever, and wonders how much longer she can keep pretending she has any control left. Her phone buzzes. Another meeting. Another crisis. Another reason to keep moving. She takes a breath, straightens her posture, and steps out of the car. But as she walks toward the house, she can't shake the feeling that she's losing her daughter. And this time, money can't fix it. The penthouse is all glass and silence. Victoria stands in the kitchen, still wearing her blazer from this morning, watching Maya move through the space like a ghost. Her daughter grabs a bottle of water from the refrigerator without acknowledging her presence. Victoria has rehearsed this conversation a dozen times in her head, but now that the moment is here, every word feels wrong. She asks Maya what happened at school. Her voice is calm, measured, the same tone she uses in boardrooms. Maya doesn't even turn around. She just laughs, sharp and bitter, and says something that cuts straight through Victoria's carefully constructed armor. You don't actually care what happened. You care that it happened at St. Catherine's. You care what people will think. Victoria feels the heat rise in her chest, but she keeps her voice steady. She tells Maya that's not fair, that she's always cared. that everything she does is for Maya's future. But Maya spins around, and the look in her eyes is pure fire. She says Victoria has spent 3 years hiding behind work, behind money, behind this perfect glass tower, and she's never once asked Maya how she actually feels. Victoria's hands start to shake. She grips the edge of the marble counter to steady herself. She wants to scream that she's been trying, that every single day without him feels like drowning, that she doesn't know how to be the parent Maya needs because she's barely holding herself together. But instead, what comes out is something she's never said before. I'm trying to protect you from the truth. The words hang in the air like smoke. Maya's expression shifts from anger to confusion. She takes a step closer, her camera swinging against her chest. What truth? Victoria's throat tightens. She can feel herself losing control, and that terrifies her more than anything. She shakes her head, her platinum bob swaying slightly, and says she can't talk about this right now. Maya's face hardens again. She calls her mother a coward. She says she's tired of living in a house full of secrets and ghosts. She grabs her jacket and storms toward the terrace doors. Victoria watches her go, frozen in place, her pulse pounding in her ears. She wants to follow. She wants to pull Maya into her arms and tell her everything. But she can't, because some truths are too dangerous. Some truths could destroy what little they have left. 20 minutes later, Elliot Crane knocks on the front door. He's been doing this for years now, checking in, making sure they're okay, carrying the weight of a promise he made to his best friend before he died. Victoria answers looking more fragile than he's seen her in months. He asks if everything's all right, even though he already knows it's not. She lets him in, and he finds Maya on the rooftop terrace, sitting on the edge of a lounge chair, her camera pointed at the fog rolling over the bay. He doesn't say anything at first. He just sits down beside her. Maya tells him she hates it here, that she feels like she's suffocating. Elliot understands more than she realizes. He asks if she and her mother talked. Maya laughs bitterly and says talking requires 2 people who actually want to communicate. Downstairs, Elliot finds Victoria standing in the living room, staring out at the city lights. He tells her gently but firmly that she can't keep doing this, that Maya is 16 and angry and grieving, and she needs her mother to be honest with her. Victoria turns to face him, and for the first time, her mask completely falls away. Her voice cracks when she speaks. She tells him she's terrified, that if Maya knew the whole truth about the night her father died, about the choices that were made, about the guilt Victoria carries every single day, Maya would never forgive her. Elliot steps closer, his expression pained. He says Maya might surprise her, that secrets have a way of becoming heavier than the truth ever could. But Victoria just shakes her head. She can't risk it. She won't. Later that night, after Elliot has left and Maya has locked herself in her room, Victoria sits alone on the edge of her bed. The city glows outside her window, indifferent and endless. She opens the drawer of her nightstand and pulls out a photograph. It's old, slightly creased. Her late husband smiling at the camera, holding a newborn Maya in his arms. Victoria traces his face with her finger, the gold band on her right hand catching the dim light. She whispers an apology into the empty room, knowing he'll never hear it. And for the first time in 3 years, she lets herself cry. Not the silent, controlled tears she's allowed herself before, but real, broken sobs that shake her entire body. Because she knows Elliot is right. She's losing her daughter, and she doesn't know how to stop it. Victoria doesn't believe in therapy. She believes in discipline, in forward momentum, in solving problems with strategy and capital. But Elliot is persistent in a way that only old friends can be. He tells her about Sienna Hayes over coffee in her penthouse, his voice careful but insistent. Sienna knew her husband. Not well, but enough. She understands the tech world, the pressure, the particular kind of loneliness that comes with building empires. Victoria listens with her arms crossed, her expression neutral, but something in Elliot's tone makes her pause. He's not pushing. He's pleading. And Elliot never pleads. So she agrees to one session. Just one. She tells herself it's to get him off her back. But deep down, in a place she doesn't want to examine too closely, she knows she's drowning. Sienna's office is nothing like Victoria expected. It's warm. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the bay, but the space itself feels intimate, human. Deep emerald curtains, burnt orange pillows, books stacked everywhere. Sienna herself is elegant in a way that has nothing to do with money. Natural hair styled in graceful twists, a rich plum-wrapped dress, that distinctive amber ring catching the afternoon light. She offers Victoria tea. Victoria declines. They sit across from each other, and for a moment, neither speaks. Sienna doesn't rush to fill the silence. She just waits. Victoria hates that. She's used to controlling conversations, setting the pace, determining the outcome. But here, in this room, she has no leverage. So she does what she always does. She starts talking about Maya, about the suspension, about the rebellion, about how she doesn't know how to reach her daughter anymore. Sienna listens without interrupting, her dark eyes attentive but not intrusive. When Victoria finally stops, Sienna asks a simple question. What happened the night your husband died? Victoria's entire body goes rigid. She came here to talk about Maya, not this. She gives the practiced answer, the one she's told 100 times. Car accident. Late night drive. Wet roads. Tragic, but straightforward. Sienna nods slowly, then asks another question. And where were you? Victoria's throat tightens. She was at home, waiting. They'd had a fight earlier that evening. She told him to leave if he needed space. She never thought he'd actually go. She never thought those would be the last words they'd exchange. Her hands start to tremble in her lap. She tucks them under her thighs to hide it. Sienna leans forward slightly, her voice gentle but unwavering. When was the last time you let yourself feel angry at him? The question lands like a physical blow. Victoria's breath catches. She wants to say she's not angry. That would be unfair. That he didn't choose to leave. But the truth rises up in her chest like a wave, and before she can stop it, the words are spilling out. She is angry. She's furious. Because he left her alone with a 13-year-old daughter, and a company she never wanted to run, and a grief so enormous she can barely breathe around it. Because he was supposed to be the parent who understood Maya. Because he promised her they'd figure out life together, and now she's figuring it out alone, and she's failing. By the time she stops talking, her face is wet. She didn't even realize she'd started crying. While Victoria is unraveling in Sienna's office, Maya is across the city in the Mission District, sitting in a small coffee shop with someone she met online. His name is Jason. He's a college sophomore studying photography at the San Francisco Art Institute. They've been messaging for weeks, ever since Maya posted some of her work in a photography forum. He's kind, encouraging, and most importantly, he sees her as an artist, not as Victoria Ashford's troubled daughter. They talk about composition and light and the way certain moments demand to be captured. Maya feels something she hasn't felt in months. Seen. Understood. Free. She doesn't tell him she's supposed to be at school. She doesn't tell him about the suspension or the fight or the mother who looks at her like a problem to be solved. For 2 hours, she's just Maya. Just herself. The therapy session ends with homework. Sienna hands Victoria a leather journal and tells her to write a letter to her late husband. Everything she wishes she could say. Everything she's been holding inside. No one will ever read it. It's just for her. Victoria takes the journal like it's a grenade. She thanks Sienna with the same polished courtesy she uses everywhere else, but her hands are still shaking when she reaches her car. She sits in the parking garage for 15 minutes, staring at the journal on the passenger seat. Her phone buzzes. Messages from her assistant. A board meeting tomorrow. Investor calls. The world keeps spinning, demanding her attention, pulling her back into the role she knows how to play. But for the first time in 3 years, Victoria wonders if maybe, just maybe, she's been playing the wrong role all along. She starts the car and drives home through the fog, the journal sitting beside her like a silent witness to everything she's still too afraid to say. It's 2 a.m. when Victoria gives up on sleep. She moves through the dark penthouse like a ghost, the city glowing silently through the windows. She finds herself in her home office. The leather journal Sienna gave her sitting on her desk, where she left it hours ago. She's been avoiding it, avoiding what it represents. But tonight, the silence is too heavy, and the memories won't stop coming. She opens the journal to the first blank page, uncaps her fountain pen, and stares at the emptiness. Dear Michael. She writes his name and then stops. What comes next? What do you say to someone who's been gone for 3 years, but still haunts every corner of your life? She deletes the line, tries again, deletes again. This goes on for 20 minutes. The night he died, they'd fought. Not a small argument. A real fight, the kind that cuts deep and leaves scars. Victoria can still see him standing in their bedroom, his jacket already on, his keys in his hand. She'd accused him of prioritizing the company over their family. Over Maya. He'd fired back that she was the one who couldn't let go of control, who treated their daughter like a business project instead of a person. The words were sharp on both sides, honed by years of small resentments neither had addressed. And then Victoria said the thing she'd regretted every day since. If you need space so badly, then go. Just go. She meant for an hour, maybe the night. She never imagined he wouldn't come back. She never imagined those would be the last words she'd ever say to him. Victoria's hand shakes as she writes. This time, she doesn't delete. She lets the truth pour out onto the page, messy and raw and unfiltered. She writes about the fight, about the guilt that's been eating her alive for 3 years, about how she sent him out into the rain, angry and hurt, and how 30 minutes later the police were at her door. She writes about the autopsy report she read alone in her lawyer's office, the one that mentioned the alcohol in his system, the wet roads, the speed. She writes about the secret she's been carrying, that she could have stopped him, that she should have, that Maya lost her father because Victoria's pride wouldn't let her back down from an argument. And now Maya is losing her mother too, because Victoria can't figure out how to live with what she's done. While Victoria is bleeding onto the page, Maya is watching the sunrise at Ocean Beach. Jason drove them here in his beat-up Honda, and they've been sitting on the cold sand for an hour, waiting for the light to be perfect. Maya's camera is ready, her finger on the shutter, but she's not focused on the horizon. She's talking, really talking, telling Jason things she's never told anyone, about how her mother looks at her like she's a stranger, about how the house feels like a museum where she's not supposed to touch anything, about how sometimes she wonders if her mom even remembers what it was like before when they were a family, when her dad was alive and everything made sense. Jason listens without trying to fix it. He just nods and says, "That sounds really lonely." And it is. It's the loneliest thing in the world. The sun starts to rise, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink and amber. Maya lifts her camera and starts shooting. Through the viewfinder, everything looks softer, more forgivable. She wishes she could see her mother this way, through a lens that blurs the hard edges and finds the beauty underneath. But every time she tries, all she sees is distance. All she feels is the wall between them, growing higher every day. Jason asks if she thinks things will ever get better. Maya lowers her camera and stares at the ocean. She wants to say yes, but she doesn't know if she believes it anymore. They sit in silence as the city wakes up behind them, and for a moment, Maya lets herself imagine a different life. One where her mother actually sees her. One where they can talk without everything falling apart. Back at the penthouse, Victoria finishes the letter as dawn breaks. Her face is streaked with tears, her hand cramping from writing. She reads it aloud to the empty office, her voice cracking on every other word. It's the most honest she's been in years, maybe ever. When she's done, she closes the journal and sits in the quiet, feeling simultaneously lighter and more exhausted than she's ever felt. She hears the front door open downstairs. Maya sneaking back in. Victoria stands, smooths her hair, wipes her face. She walks to the top of the stairs just as Maya appears in the foyer. Their eyes meet. For a split second, something passes between them. A flicker of recognition, of need. Maya looks like she might say something. Victoria opens her mouth to speak. Then Victoria's phone rings, loud and insistent in the silent house. She glances at the screen. It's her COO. There's a crisis. An investor backing out. A deal falling apart. The kind of thing that requires her immediate attention. She looks back at Maya, still standing in the foyer, still waiting. Victoria knows she should let it ring. She knows this moment matters more than any conference call. But 3 years of muscle memory kick in, and she answers. Give me 2 minutes. She mouths an apology to Maya and turns away, already walking back to her office. When she glances over her shoulder 30 seconds later, Maya is gone. Her bedroom door is closed, and Victoria is left standing in the hallway, phone pressed to her ear, drowning in the consequences of another choice she can't take back. Victoria discovers the truth the way most parents do now, through technology, through the little blue dot on her phone that shows Maya's location, pulsing somewhere in the Mission District at 10:30 on a Wednesday morning. Maya should be in calculus. She should be in the chemistry lab. She should be anywhere but a coffee shop 15 miles from school. Victoria stares at her phone during a conference call, barely hearing the voices coming through her AirPods. This is the 3rd time this week. The 3rd time her daughter has lied, has chosen rebellion over responsibility. And something inside Victoria snaps. She ends the call mid-sentence, grabs her keys, and drives across the city with her jaw clenched so tight her teeth ache. She finds them at a corner table near the window. Maya and that boy Jason looking at photographs spread across the table, laughing about something, completely absorbed in their own world. Maya looks relaxed in a way Victoria hasn't seen her look in months, maybe years, and that somehow makes it worse. Victoria pushes through the door, and the little bell above it chimes. Maya's head snaps up. The color drains from her face. Victoria crosses the coffee shop in 5 strides, her cream heels clicking against the worn hardwood. She doesn't yell. She doesn't have to. Her voice is cold, surgical, designed to cut. Get your things. We're leaving. Now. Maya's eyes flash with something between fear and fury. Jason starts to stand, to introduce himself, to somehow diffuse the situation. But Victoria cuts him off with a single look. She tells Maya again to get up. Maya doesn't move. She says no. Just like that. No. Victoria feels the eyes of everyone in the coffee shop on them. The barista has stopped making drinks. A woman with a laptop is openly staring. And Maya just sits there, arms crossed, that camera around her neck, defiance radiating from every inch of her body. Victoria's control starts to fracture. She tells Maya she's paying for her phone, her school, this entire life, and the least Maya can do is show some respect. That's when Maya finally explodes. She stands up so fast her chair scrapes against the floor. You don't get to control me just because you couldn't save him. The words detonate in the space between them. The coffee shop goes completely silent. Victoria feels like she's been punched. Her breath catches. Her vision tunnels. She can see Maya's mouth moving, more words coming, something about control and guilt, and how Victoria has been taking out her own failures on her daughter for 3 years. But Victoria can't hear it anymore. All she can hear is the roaring in her ears. All she can feel is 3 years of grief and guilt and rage rising up in her chest like a tsunami. And before she can stop herself, before she can think, her hand moves. The slap echoes through the coffee shop. Maya's head turns with the impact. And then everything stops. Victoria stares at her own hand like it belongs to someone else. Maya's eyes fill with tears, but she doesn't cry. She just stares at her mother with an expression Victoria will see in her nightmares for the rest of her life. Then Maya grabs her camera and runs. Jason goes after her. Victoria stands frozen in the middle of the coffee shop, surrounded by strangers and their judgment. Her hand is still raised slightly, trembling. Someone asks if she's okay. She doesn't respond. She just walks out slowly, mechanically, and finds herself sitting on a bench outside, staring at nothing. Her phone rings. She ignores it. It rings again, and again. Finally, she answers. It's Elliot. His voice is careful, controlled. Maya showed up at his house. She's safe. But she's not coming home tonight. Maybe not for a few days. Victoria tries to speak, but nothing comes out. Elliot asks what happened. Victoria whispers 2 words. I hit her. The line goes quiet. Then Elliot says Maya needs space, and Victoria needs help. He's already called Sienna. Victoria has an appointment first thing tomorrow morning. This is a crisis point. The family is standing on the edge of a cliff, and one more wrong move could push them over permanently. Victoria returns to an empty penthouse. The silence is deafening. She walks through the space like a stranger, seeing it for what it really is. A beautiful, expensive cage. She sits on the couch where her family used to watch movies on Friday nights. Then she goes to her office, opens a drawer, and pulls out the letter. The one she wrote to Michael. The one where she confessed everything. She reads it out loud again, but this time it's different. This time it's not just a confession of what happened 3 years ago. It's a confession of what she did today, of the look on Maya's face when her mother struck her, of the daughter she's losing because she never learned how to stop being afraid. Her voice breaks on every sentence. By the end, she's on the floor, the letter clutched in her hands, sobbing into the empty room. And for the first time, she realizes that maybe the truth is lighter than the secrets. But maybe, she thinks, as the city lights blur through her tears, maybe she's realized it too late. Victoria arrives at Sienna's office at 8 in the morning, still wearing yesterday's clothes. She hasn't slept. Her eyes are swollen and raw. When Sienna opens the door, she takes one look at Victoria and simply says, "Come in." No judgment. No surprise. Just an invitation to step into the hardest conversation of Victoria's life. Sienna doesn't ease into it. She asks Victoria to describe exactly what happened at the coffee shop. Every detail. Victoria tries to intellectualize it, to explain the circumstances, the stress, the pattern of lies. But Sienna stops her gently. "You hit your daughter. Tell me why." And Victoria's defenses crumble. She was terrified. Seeing Maya so happy, so free, so completely separate from her made Victoria realize she'd already lost her. The slap wasn't about the skip school. It was about 3 years of suppressed rage and grief exploding in the worst possible moment. Sienna waits, patient and unwavering. Then she says, "Tell me everything about the night Michael died. Not the version you've told yourself. The truth." Victoria closes her eyes. She's never said this part out loud. The fight wasn't just about family time. It was about money. About a massive investment Victoria had made without consulting Michael, using their personal assets, their safety net. It was reckless. Brilliant, maybe, but reckless. And it terrified him. He'd accused her of gambling with their daughter's future, of being so addicted to risk that she couldn't see the danger. Michael had been drinking before the fight even started. They'd screamed at each other about responsibility, about trust. And when Victoria told him to leave, she'd said something else. Maybe Maya would be better off with just one parent who thinks before acting. He'd looked at her like she'd stabbed him. 40 minutes later, his car wrapped around a tree. Sienna's voice is soft but clear. "What would Michael want you to do right now?" Victoria opens her eyes. The question feels impossible. But then she thinks about the man she married. The man who loved Maya more than anything. And she knows. He'd want her to stop punishing herself by punishing their daughter. He'd want her to be honest. To be the mother Maya deserves. Sienna reaches across and touches Victoria's hand briefly. "Then that's what you do. Not tomorrow. Today." Victoria takes a shaky breath and asks Sienna to call Elliot, to arrange a meeting with Maya. She's ready to tell the truth. The therapy office feels different when all 3 of them are there. Victoria arrives first, clutching the letter. Maya arrives with Elliot, her eyes red, her camera absent for the first time Victoria can remember. They look at each other across the room, and the air feels fragile. Sienna invites them to sit. She explains the ground rules. They'll each speak without interruption. They'll listen, even when it hurts. And they'll try to be honest instead of safe. Victoria goes first. Her voice shakes as she tells Maya she wants to read the letter she wrote to her father. That it contains things Maya deserves to know. Victoria reads. Every word, every confession, the investment, the fight, the words she can never take back. She tells Maya that she's been trying to control everything because she's terrified of losing her too. That every rule, every expectation, every moment of distance has been about Victoria's fear, not Maya's failures. By the time she finishes, both of them are crying. The letter falls onto her lap. She looks at her daughter and says the words she should have said 3 years ago. I'm sorry. For all of it. For hitting you. For making you feel invisible. For being so lost in my own pain that I forgot you were grieving too. Maya's voice is barely above a whisper. I thought it was my fault. The fight. I thought he left because I wasn't good enough. Victoria's face crumples. Maya tells her about the guilt she's carried. About feeling like she had to be perfect. About the anger that's really just grief with nowhere to go. And then she says something that breaks Victoria's heart wide open. I don't need you to be perfect, Mom. I just need you to be here. I want my mom back. Victoria can't stay seated anymore. She crosses the space and drops to her knees in front of Maya's chair. She takes her daughter's hands and says, I'm here. I'm right here. They don't hug immediately. The hurt is still too fresh. But they hold hands. They cry. They sit in Sienna's office as the afternoon light streams through the windows, and they begin the long work of rebuilding what grief shattered. Maya doesn't forgive Victoria entirely, not yet. But she agrees to try, to come home, to talk instead of run, to let her mother be imperfect and human, as long as Victoria promises to see Maya the same way. When they stand to leave, Victoria notices something. Maya's posture is lighter, and when their eyes meet, there's something there that hasn't been present in years. Hope. They walk out together, mother and daughter, still carrying their grief, but no longer carrying it alone. The fog is rolling in over the bay, soft and forgiving. And for the first time in 3 years, Victoria thinks maybe they're going to be okay. Thanks for watching. Sometimes the most powerful stories aren't about what money can buy, but about what it can't fix. More emotional dramas coming soon. Subscribe to never miss a story.